Welcome to the Newsome MMA Betting Podcast, partnered with Concussion Pro 1, the world's first dedicated concussion supplement. I'm your host as always, Newsome, and I'm joined by the new permanent co-host of this betting podcast, Jon Prentice. Tonight we're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 135 from Lincoln, Nebraska. How are you doing, John?
How you doing, mate? I'm very good, thank you. Very happy to be here, first time as co-host. Great honour. I'm really looking forward to it. I obviously did well enough on my previous visits to get the permanent nod. So really looking forward to getting stuck into it.
No, it's good stuff, man. I'm excited as well. Just before we start, though, I'd like to remind everybody the premium bets from Newsome MMA this week are only available at betmma.tips, and you can purchase these bets for $25 by going to betmma.tips/Newsome MMA. That's betmma.tips/Newsome MMA. From UFC 228, which is the 8th of September, the membership options will be available on the Newsome MMA website. We'll have a standard membership, bronze membership, silver membership, and gold membership, so make sure you keep your eyes out for those. And without further ado, let's break UFC Lincoln down from bottom to top. And in your first fight of the evening, we've got in the bantamweight division, Rani versus Luke Sanders, striker versus grappler. John, who have you got?
Yeah, so bantamweight bout to start with. Before we get into it, very happy to be back having the UFC on TV. It's been a long 3-week break without it. I think we're pretty much consecutive weeks for a few weeks. We were treated to it, so it's been a long break. This has it's great to be back. Great to be talking about some fights and looking forward to some fights.
For sure, and strap yourself in heading towards Christmas because I think there's about 11 in a row. So
There certainly is, yeah. So straight away, as you say, classic striker versus grappler. When I was doing the study for this, I found it absolutely crazy that Luke Sanders is only a year younger than Rani Yahya. Yahya seems like he's been around forever. And then obviously we've got Luke Sanders, only a year younger than him. But when you look at the records, Yahya's got about 35 professional fights to Sanders' 14. But yeah, with this one, I've been umming and ahhing over it the last few days while I've been looking at tape and stuff and looking at their records and things. And I've changed my mind a couple of times, but I am going with striker on this one. I'm going with Luke Sanders. Reason being, looking through Yahya, you know what he's going to do. You know he's going to try and take you down. You know he's going to try and work for those submissions, which is extremely dangerous. I mean, he's previous ADCC champion and things. He's very, very dangerous on the ground. But watching that fight against Russell Doan, watching that back, although he absolutely annihilated Doan, I think Doan landed a strike for the first round and 3/4. He didn't set up many of those takedowns. It was kind of just fly straight in. No real setups or anything like that. And I think Sanders, he's got better takedown defense than Russell Doan did. I think he's a lot more athletic. He'll pile on that forward pressure. And I can see him just being in Yahya's face and not allowing him to get those takedowns. And then he's got that big left hand, that big straight left. And I think it's going to be a long night for Yahya. And we've seen with him previously, if he can't get the takedown, he's got a tendency to gas a bit later on as well. So I think Sanders may get taken down early on, first round, but then I think he'll wise up to it. I think he'll defend a few of the takedowns, and then I think he'll make it a bit of a miserable night for Yahya. I think it'll go the distance, but I can see Sanders getting the nod overall.
Yeah, and you alluded to it as well. You know, if Rani Yahya doesn't get the takedowns that he needs and the grappling time on top, and he is having time spent striking for majority of the fights or for long periods, that he has got that tendency to gas. We have seen it in a few fights, but we've also seen it where he hasn't gassed as well. But
Yeah.
the problem you've got with Rani Yahya is stopping that takedown. So let me ask you,
Exactly.
John, 21 UFC fights. How many fighters has Rani Yahya not taken down?
I'll probably say maybe there's not very many at all. Maybe Chad Mendes, possibly.
The number's 5. And
Yeah.
some of those include Chad Mendes, which you've just said.
Yeah.
We've got Joe Benavidez in there as well.
Yeah.
Also, we've got Johnny Bedford, but that ended in round 1 to a headbutt. They rematched after that. He took him down 3 times. So, it's tough to stop this takedown. And I think that when I was watching tape on this fight, the first thing that I noticed is I was pretty sure that this is the first southpaw that Rani Yahya has fought in, well, a long time at least.
Yeah,
I've not dug through every single one of his previous fights. It's just time consuming. And at first, I was thinking, is that going to be a bit different? Is he going to struggle to get the takedown because of this? But then when you look at Rani Yahya's takedowns, he really likes the single leg. So
yeah,
with this being southpaw versus orthodox, you've got the lead leg of Sanders, which is closest to the lead hand of Rani Yahya, which makes it's going to make it a little bit easier and make it a little bit quicker for Yahya to wrap that single leg up. Now, if you look at Yahya's previous fights, when he's fighting orthodox fighters, he still wraps that single pretty well, and he doesn't complete it straight away a lot of the time. He makes the opponent sprawl, but he's still got that lead hand wrapped around the leg, and then from there he
yeah,
works the second takedown. This is where you get your really good wrestlers and your really good grapplers. This is what shows, because sometimes you don't get that first takedown, and it's the chain of the second or the third if need be to complete it, and that's exactly what Rani Yahya does. He's a master of what he does, and to be honest with you, I think that, and I challenge anybody to have this conversation with me to debate otherwise, because I think Rani Yahya is in the top 5 grapplers in the UFC, period.
yeah,
I think he's up there with your Habibs. I think he's up there with Luke Rockhold. Though, like that caliber of fighter. When Rani Yahya's on top, it's so tough to do anything against him. And he tends to find that submission. I think that's what happens in this Luke Sanders fight. You've obviously got the big concern of if he doesn't get the takedown early, or if he can't get the takedown, the takedowns isn't guaranteed in this fight. Luke Sanders is thick, he's strong for the division. Maybe he can fight Yahya off with power. Who knows? We'll find out on Saturday night. But I think that Yahya is going to find the takedown, and I think if he finds it early in round 1, or if he finds it early in any of the rounds, if it goes to round 2 and he isn't depleted with his gas tank, or if he isn't already knocked out,
yeah,
if he finds a takedown early in a round and time to work, I think he's going to submit Luke Sanders. And ultimately, I think that's what's going to happen. Like I say, you look at statistics, you look at the record. He's not taken down five fighters out of 21 UFC fights. Fair enough, some of the competition hasn't been the greatest, but no disrespect, is Luke Sanders the greatest? I think he's up there with a few of the other fighters that Rani Yahya has taken down. So yeah, I'm going with Rani Yahya. I think he does get the takedown. I think he does submit Luke Sanders. In the next fight of the evening in the lightweight division, we've got Drew Dober against John Tuck. So what have you got, John?
I like this fight. That Drew Dober fight, he's coming in off the back of that win against Frank Camacho. I think that won fight of the night. It was an absolutely crazy fight that was. I had the pleasure of
I
watching.
don't think he won, by the way. Sorry to cut you in then.
Yeah, it was pretty close fight, wasn't it? It certainly was a close fight. I mean, Camacho did gas first round. Camacho dominated, and then he did start to gas probably halfway through the second round. But then even in the third round, he was still swinging, and he was catching him with some nice shots. It was very close. Was a very close fought contest, an entertaining one as well. But yeah, Dober's on a good little streak. I mean, he's only got one loss in his last about 5 or 6 fights, and that's to Obi Mercier, who's good top 15, just broke into the top 15.
Sure.
Dober, I've said this before, I always look out for guys who train out of Denver, Colorado as well, because I always like their gas tank. They always seem to have that extra fitness level. I think it's probably to do with the altitude that they train at more often than not. But yeah, I think Drew Dober's going to have too much for Tuck. Tuck, I think, does his best work on the ground, and he does seem to attack in flurries. I've noticed he'll attack in a flurry, and then he'll go 2 or 3 minutes just throwing single shots. And I think Dober will be. He's got good movement. He bounces around. He likes to rip the body. I just think he'll be more active overall. I think he'll outwork John Tuck, and I think he'll get the win. Tuck, we know, we've seen it a few times. If he does hurt you, and he can hurt you, he'll look for that rear naked choke. He did it against Gomi early on. He he winded him with that body kick and then
Listen, you could
jump.
put Gomi down by looking at him in this stage of his
That's
career.
very true. But Damien Bryan, he did the same with Damien Bryan as well. He knocked Damien Bryan down in I think it was the first round as well,
Yeah.
and worked for that rear naked choke. But Bryan fought off. That was a very close fight as well. I thought Bryan could have edged that. That was an extremely close fight.
That punch
But
shattered Damien Brown's nose, you know.
oh,
He
he was
broke
leaking
his nose
everywhere.
with that
Yeah.
punch.
Yeah, but I feel a bit sorry for going off this fight slightly. I feel a bit sorry for Damien Bryan getting cut from the UFC because he was very entertaining. Although he didn't have the greatest of records, he was very entertaining. Like you say, his nose was smashed to pieces. He still kept marching forward, throwing them head kicks
Yeah, for
and
sure. I mean,
charging.
I talked to Damien Brown quite a bit, and he's been on here breaking some fights down. He's a super cool dude, and for sure
Yeah,
one of the coolest guys in the sport. And just a quick note on that: whoever takes him, whatever promotion he goes to, is going to have a very exciting fighter on the hands. So
yeah,
I'll say that much.
definitely. But yeah, um, looking at overall, I think Dober's going to have enough. I think he's going to be more energetic. I think he's going to attack in flurries more than Tuck does. I think he's going to be more put more pressure on. He's got that. He's another southpaw. He's got that good left hand and the good body kick as well. I think he's going to do enough. I think it'll go the distance. Tuck's hard to finish, but I think Dober takes the decision.
Yeah, for sure, I agree with you, and you've hit a lot of points that I'd mention as well. So first of all, coming out of Team Elevation, like you said, anybody training in Denver, Colorado, they've got that altitude that
Yeah,
it must be tough to train in that every day. But obviously, once you're climatized to it, that's gonna then reap the rewards when you're inside the cage. Sort of lower
definitely.
altitude. But then you look at the guys that he's training with as well. He's training with some really pacey guys. So you've got Matthew Lopez over there.
Yeah.
You've got Corey Sandhagen, which on this card we'll talk about him
Yes.
later
Yeah.
on. We've got him over there. You've also got fighters like Curtis Blades over there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's a really good team. And yeah, he's coming back down to lightweight. But he's a big lightweight. Like
He is.
he
Yeah.
didn't look out of place against Camacho at welterweight.
No, he
Camacho
didn't.
went up as well, but he's still a big dude. Um, but yeah, that it doesn't worry me him coming back down with his cardio. We've seen him go hard before. All you've got to do is look back at your Scott Holtzman fight, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
That fight was back and forward. There was takedowns. He was on bottom some of the time, so that can sometimes zap fighters' energy and cardio. But he didn't. He kept working. He got back up, and he kept a high pace going over the 3 rounds. Two-time amateur world Muay Thai champion as well. So his
Yeah.
striking's legit. His wrestling's only getting better as well. Again, training with legit wrestlers like Matthew Lopez and Curtis Blades. He's going to definitely pick stuff up from them. And you can see that as well. Like, he did get taken down a few times by Holtzman. Same with Aubin Mercier as well. But, he
Yeah.
gets back up. He did slip up a little bit against Frank Camacho, but Camacho has got a good background in judo. Not many people know that. So the trip
Yeah. He's
takedowns that he was
fantastic
landing,
judoka. Yeah.
those were the takedowns that you sort of expect from Camacho in most fights, especially when you're tying up with him. John Tuck, on the other hand, I think is a fighter that's just he just never seems to flourish too much inside the cage. Again, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, he can flurry, but it is only in certain spells. He does tend to look for that straight right down the pipe rather than stringing combinations together and mixing in leg kicks and things like that. Now, the interesting thing, again, you mentioned it as well, Drew Dober being the southpaw. The straight right isn't going to be as easier to land on a southpaw because you're not coming straight through the
Yeah.
middle, stance facing stance. So that straight right for John Tuck is definitely going to be harder to land, which again benefits Drew Dober. And yeah, Drew Dober, it's hard, man. He works inside the pocket. He's got a good head movement. He's got good lateral movement as well. He'll work himself inside cleverly.
Yeah. He
I
works
think,
the body well as well. He rips them shots to the body, which I like.
yeah, absolutely, and that's going to take something out of the tank. And I think John Tuck's going to come out aggressive to start with,
Yeah.
but I think he's going to get met in the middle by Dober. Dober's not the sort of fighter that will step on the back foot and move backwards. And I
No.
think when they meet in the middle, I trust the guy with the slightly shorter reach disadvantage. I trust Dober to be the slightly quicker fighter. He'll land volume on Tuck for sure, and I think ultimately that's where he's going to win the fight. I think if it goes to the decision, I think Dober comfortably at least wins 2 rounds just from pure volume. He does have to be careful of that straight right though when he does come in close, because like we've already said, it shattered Damian Brown's nose and dropped him. He's a tough motherfucker to drop, so that speaks volumes. So Dober does have to be careful, but like I say, he's got decent head movement coming in. He takes his head off the centre line with striking. He's got a good, like I say, he's got a good Muay Thai background. He's savvy on the feet for sure, and he is getting better through each fight. So yeah, I think that Dober will win on volume if it goes to the decision. But ultimately, I think that he is going to knock Tuck out. I think that once he starts landing on Tuck a little bit, the pace, the pressure, I think Tuck's going to shoot a couple of takedowns once he starts feeling this pressure and the pace that Dober's putting on him. I think Dober will stuff these takedowns, or at least stuff him to a clinch against the cage, and then use his strength to turn Tuck. And I think once that happens and he's defended a few takedowns, I think that's when we're going to see Dober back Tuck up against the cage, and Tuck's going to unload on him. Dober's going to unload on Tuck. And I'm not sure that Tuck withstands maybe a 2 or 3 punch combo that might land clean. It does, Dober's. You have got to worry for Dober if the fight hits the mat, and Dober is on his back, because Tuck is legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's been training a lot with Bryan Ortega as well for this camp. So you have got to worry about that. But I think Tuck's got to take Dober down for that to happen. I think Dober's got decent takedown defense, and again, that's getting better each fight. You do see that. I know Camacho tripped him a couple of times, but Tuck tends to shoot for the double legs, the standard wrestling takedowns, and I just don't think. I think that Dober's takedown defense is better than Tuck's takedown offense, so I think that'll keep Dober vertical. And yeah, ultimately, I think Dober's gonna knock Tuck out, sort of maybe mid fight, mid to late fight. So yeah, Dober by knockout. And in the next fight, we've got in the women's division, we've got Joanne Calderwood against Kalindra Faria. So who have you got in this one, John?
This one I'm going to go straight in there with Jojo Calderwood for this one. She's on that 2-fight losing streak, Jessica Andrade and Cynthia Calvillo, but I just think she's got too much in the striking department for Kalindra Faria. She's got exceptional Muay Thai. She's got them dangerous lead elbows. She's got good volume, and I think she'll just outwork Faria. I think she'll push her back. Faria tends to look better and perform better when she kind of dictates the pace and can get the upper hand and push her opponent back. But I think every time Faria throws 1 or 2 strikes, I think Calderwood's just in and out with 4 or 5 before she can even react. And Calderwood's got a few little savvy takedowns of herself as well. She's not she's no slouch on the ground. The only worry about her is I think for her fighting herself. She's mentioned before that she's struggled mentally sometimes going into fights. She's not been there mentally, but I think she's training over at Syndicate MMA now in Vegas with Jessica Rose Clark, and she looks like she's in a good place. She looks like she's enjoying it again, enjoying her training, and things that I've seen on social media and stuff would indicate that. And overall, I just think she's going to put too much pressure on. She's going to outstrike her, and I think it'll probably go the distance, but I think Calderwood will come out on top.
Yeah, for sure. And the first thing to mention from what you said in regards to the mental game of Calderwood, she has mentioned that she's had some toughness before, but I think that a lot of that came down to the weight class that she was fighting at. She didn't really seem happy fighting in the lower division at strawweight, and I think with a not a bad weight cut, but maybe a tough weight cut for her, and then she's got to get in there. I think she just had that. She had that that sort of, like you said, the mental breakdown a bit when she entered the cage. But this was before the women's flyweight was introduced. Now the women's flyweight is and has been introduced, She can move up now. The weight cut's not going to be as bad. I think she feels
Yeah.
more confident in herself. It's also interesting she's moved away from TriStar as well with Faras Zahabi.
Yes, yeah.
She moved away from there, I believe, to fight against. Sorry, to train with more females, with more women, which sort of makes sense because she's fighting women. So that was a brave move, and I think that's a move that I don't think she'll have taken very lightly, and that also shows me mentally she must be in a good position to make a drastic move like that. It strikes me as, I think some people get to these big camps like TriStar and ATT and maybe feel like if it's not working, they don't want to move because this is such a great gym. And
Yeah.
I'm sort of digressing a bit here, but I think Joanne Calderwood's in a better place for sure. And this is actually my free bet of this card, so I've got two
Yeah.
units on Joanne Calderwood at -162. And yeah, I really like her to win this fight. I think that she's a great kickboxer. She's got a kickboxing background. She's got a slight Muay Thai background as well. She's an aggressive pressure fighter. So again, like I've just mentioned with Drew Dober just before, I really don't see anybody, or at least Faria, putting her on the back foot. She'll meet her in the middle if that's what it takes. And like you said, I really like the step in elbow as well. It's really dangerous. It's really accurate. And it can really, it can cut a fighter open, things like that. So
Yeah.
she striking and her arsenal on the feet is really, there's a lot of variety to it, because she's got a good jab, she's got a good cross, she mixes in leg kicks as well, and knees and elbows. She's got the total package, and
Yeah.
I think that a downfall in the sport is how hittable she is, but she's the type of fighter that will take one to give two back.
Yeah.
And if it goes
Definitely.
to a decision, which a lot of women's fighters do, I still, that's a great thing because you're doubling up on your strikes against your opponent. That's not always the case. I'm not always saying that she will always land twice as much as her opponent, but that's a sort of mentality. Take one to land two back, and I like that style. And it also looks good in front of the judges. You see fighters like John Lineker doing that, getting hit, but he will just throw and he'll just land as much as he can. He'll pressure. He'll move forward, and ultimately when it hits the judges' scorecards, when judges have got to decide a potential close fight, they're the sort of little things that will add up in the judges' eyes.
Yeah,
You look
definitely.
back at you look over to Kalindra Faria, and she's not had the greatest of starts in the UFC. She's 0-2, I believe. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
0-2 against Romero Barella and Jessica Ai, fights where she got taken down in. Now, it's interesting mentioning the takedowns with Joanne Calderwood. I don't think she's a great grappler topside, but she's got really good reactive double leg takedowns. When we
Yes. Yeah.
saw that against Valerie Letourneau, we've seen it in a couple of other fights as well. When her opponent is pressuring a little bit, she'll level change instantly, land a double leg, take the fighter down. She'll not always stay on top. Their opponent does tend to get up pretty quickly, but I don't mind that because that relieves a bit of pressure that she was feeling. And again, also when it's close and it's going to a judge's scorecards, they're looking for these little things. So then, like I've just mentioned with the pressure and with the aggression, then you start adding the odd takedown or two to that, and suddenly she's looking really good on the judges' scorecards just from a few little things that she's doing. Faria has got a ground game as well, but
Yes. Yeah.
it tends to be against a lesser competition that she seems to have these huge advantages against. I think she is a better grappler maybe than Joanne Calderwood, but I don't think it matters so much in this fight because I think it'll primarily take place on the feet. But Faria's beaten girls with 1-0 records, 0-0 records, 2-11 records. So it just it just shows the level of competition she's been fighting before she's come to the big stage. And for me, it's not surprising that she's gone 0-2 in the UFC with a record of 18-6. I mean, when she came into the UFC, she was 18-4.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic record for to come into the UFC in the women's division. So it doesn't surprise me that she's gone 0-2 in the UFC, and I think this is going to be 0-3, and she'll be looking at getting that cut from the UFC, in my opinion.
I was going to say to you, do you think this will be a loser gets cut fight, or do you think if Calderwood loses, do you think she gets another shot, or do you reckon
100% if Calderwood loses this, I think she'll get another shot, because you look at her last 2 losses against Cynthia Calvillo, a fighter that the UFC are high on, a fighter that Team Alpha Male are high on, so much so that Paige Van Zandt left Alpha Male because rumours were that she thought that that was Alpha Male's women's star sort of thing. And then you look at Jessica Andrade, she's gonna beat pretty much all the division. So I don't think they can cut Calderwood after this, but I think if Calderwood wins, I think Faria is going to be on that chopping block, because 0-3 in the UFC, at least Calderwood's had wins in the UFC. 0-3 Barella and then Calderwood, I think that might be enough for the UFC to give her a walking papers. But who knows? I hope not. I hope nobody ever loses the job, But ultimately, I think that Calderwood's going to land the more volume. She's going to be the aggressor. She's going to land a couple of takedowns in this fight. And I think she's going to look really great on the judges' scorecards to win at least a 29-28, potentially a 30-27. And like I say, that's my free bet of the card. 2 units, Joanne Calderwood at -162. So then in the next fight, we've got Mickey Gall against George Sullivan. What's your thoughts on this one, John?
Yeah, we see the return of Mickey Gall in this one. I found this one really hard to try and make a judgment on who I think is going to win it, because obviously
surprisingly.
you look at Mickey Gall's record and you can't really make much from it. I mean, he's got a win over a guy called Ron Templeton in another promotion. Then the 3 guys he's faced and beat in the UFC are Mike Jackson, CM Punk, and Sage Northcutt. Obviously, when Northcutt was very young before he started training with Alpha Male and things, and he was very unpolished when he took him on. So it's kind of hard to judge where he is. When he faced Randy Bryan at UFC 217, it was he lost the decision, but he didn't look massively outclassed, but he kind of possibly showed his level, how much he's improved since then. Because I mean, that was back in November, so we're looking almost a year since he was last in action. What he's going to try and do. His jiu-jitsu game, his wrestling game, is his strength. I think he'll look for the takedown and try and work his jiu-jitsu, try and work for a submission. Sullivan, on the other hand, is coming in 3 losses out of 4. Against Tim Means, Alexander Yakovlev, and Nico Price, and he did look quite good in that Price fight. In the first round, he looked pretty good against Nico Price, but then obviously he got caught in the second round in that rear naked choke. He took a big shot in the Yakovlev fight that put him down, but it's. I find it really tough to decide. I think George Sullivan's going to win it, but I wouldn't put any money on it either way. I think he's just got that experience, that veteran experience. He's got a decent ground game as well. He's a BJJ brown belt, and you saw against Nico Price, when Price took him down, he was constantly working, throwing them legs up, looking for submissions, constantly moving on his back, trying to work his way back to the feet. Trying to look for submissions. Mickey Gall, does he have that knockout power? It's hard to tell, because I haven't really seen enough of him. I mean, he put Mike Jackson down within about a minute, but again, he's kind of a bit of a novelty fighter, if you will, taking nothing away, because obviously it takes a lot to get in the cage. But yeah, I think Sullivan's experience will pull through, and I think he's going to take this one. But it was a real coin toss for me with this one.
Yeah, you're a braver man than I, picking George Sullivan to win. But believe me, I really wanted to. I just can't. I think Mickey Gall's going to get the win. I think he's going to struggle for the takedowns. I'm not real. Well, I am sure of how he wins if he does, and I think he is going to submit George Sullivan, but the takedowns he's really going to have to work for, because Sullivan has got a bit of a background in wrestling. He's a strong guy as well. He's definitely going to
He
be
is, yeah.
he's
He's a
definitely
big,
going to be
big, long
stronger than
guy as well,
Gall.
isn't he?
For sure, yeah, and he's not going to go down easily. It's going to have to be a takedown of technique that gets Sullivan down, rather than a takedown of using strength and throwing him to the mat. So he's really going to have to work for the takedowns. Ultimately, though, I do think a takedown does come, and I think once it hits the floor and he's got a couple of minutes to work, I think he will submit George Sullivan. You saw how easy Nico Price ended up taking the back of Sullivan and
Yeah,
tapped him out instantly. And I just think if that's Gall in that position, I think he does it as easy as what Nico Price did it. But man, the line's so off whack here. You've got Mickey Gall at -320 with George Sullivan at +260, and it should be. I'm telling you now, this line should be so much closer than that.
yeah.
It's very, very respectful to Mickey Gall for sure. I think he should be favourite. He's the rightful favourite, but not that wide. I can't pick George Sullivan in 2018. He popped twice by USADA, I believe.
Yeah,
He's on a 2-fight losing streak, albeit Nico Price being a really good fighter, fight that I really enjoy watching. Yakovlev, not great. But then Tim Means, at the time he lost to Tim Means was a beast and knocking everybody out. So
yeah,
that wasn't a bad loss. Dominic Waters Waters just blew his load in round one, absolutely.
yeah.
So, it's tough to pick George Sullivan in 2018. So I'm going Mickey Gall. I'm going to pick him to win via submission. And in the next fight of the night, again, another real interesting one. We've got Andrew Sanchez against Markus Perez. So who have you got in this one, John?
Yeah, this one again. Again, it's a tough fight to call. Perez, his last fight was absolutely crazy against Ryan James, wasn't it, in the Ultimate Fighter finale? I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
Sanchez had him like well and truly beaten up and not knowing where he was in the first round. But then I'll use the term that you usually he blew his load in the first round pretty much. He he was completely done by the end of the second round. He could barely stumble back to his stool. And he does. That is the thing about him. He does slow down. I mean, his last 2 fights he's lost. One against Anthony Smith, who we know is on a beast run at the moment, and then obviously that Ryan James fight. But yeah, Sanchez does slow down. He's a strong wrestler. He's got a good wrestling background, but he does like to throw just that jab and then that massive right overhand quite often. And like I say, if he smells blood, he absolutely swarms to the point that he can barely stand up anymore if he hasn't finished you. So I think this one's going to go to Perez. His time with the UFC's short-lived so far, but 1-1. I like the look of him in his last fight. I mean, he completely dominated on the ground. He got Bocinovic down in about a minute or so and just completely dominated on the ground and worked that rear naked choke and got the win. I know that he trained his jiu-jitsu with Damian Maia as well, so he's good on the ground. He's got some excellent BJJ skills. His only loss has come to Eryk Anders, and I think he'll just wear Sanchez down again. And unless Sanchez has done something drastic to his gas tank, I think he will just wear him down. He looked pretty strong as well in his last fight against Bocinovic. Bocinovic got pretty strong wrestling as well, and he looked quite strong. He looked to outstrength him in the clinch, and then work the takedown himself. So yeah, I think Perez is going to win this one.
Yeah, do you know what? It's almost criminal that Andrew Sanchez has the gas tank that he does, because his boxing's on point, his
Yeah,
movement's on point, he's got reasonable power, he's got great wrestling, and like you said, a
it's
great
fantastic
wrestling
wrestling. Yeah,
background as well. And he's the complete fighter from a technical point of view, but that gas tank, man, like I say, it's almost criminal, and you, he's got to work on something. That is literally the only thing that, if I was Andrew Sanchez, I would be working on in the gym, because everything else is so on point to be
Yeah.
at least a top 15 fight, and maybe even potentially breaking top 10 if he fixed his gas tank. And ultimately, that's one of, like I've said before, that's one of my three things never to bet on. You never bet on a bad chin, you never bet on a bad gas tank, and you never bet on bad takedown defense. So
Yeah.
it's really tough, and it's hard to watch. Ultimately, though, the twist of this is I am going to pick Andrew Sanchez to win this. I do think he fixes his cardio, because I don't see that in two fights, his last two fights, that he was comfortably winning both fights and
Yeah.
then getting knocked out in round 3 because of his poor gas tank. I don't see how you can make that mistake 3 times at this level. And
Yeah.
I do believe that and I know you've said that he blows his load, and he does. But I do believe that there is good fight IQ somewhere in Andrew Sanchez. He doesn't strike me as a stupid fighter. So yeah, I do believe that he fixes issues, and if he does, if he can go at least 2.5 rounds with Markus Perez, and bear in mind Markus Perez doesn't have the best gas tank either. So
No.
let's be honest, if this goes to 3 rounds and it's been a tough fight and Sanchez is a bit gassed, I do believe that Perez is also going to be feeling it himself as well. Does that take all his power out to potentially knock Sanchez out? Possibly. And I think so. That is my opinion. I think that if he's fixed his gas tank, he's the better striker. I think he can take Perez down and keep him down without too much danger of a submission from bottom. But he does have to be careful, because if Perez is a lot fresher in round 3 and he does take Perez down, or Perez drops to his back knowing that he can potentially wrap something up from bottom, then that's an opportunity. But like I say, I do think Sanchez fixes cardio even just a little bit to make sure that he can go the 3 rounds here, and I think that's what happens, and I think Andrew Sanchez will win by decision.
Like
And
you
then,
say, if he does improve that cardio and that gas tank, just like you said, he's got all the tools to be a really strong competitor in the middleweight division. I mean, his wrestling's really good. He's, like you say, he's got good movement. His boxing's crisp. It's literally just that one area, and you think if you could sort that out and put all the piece of the jigsaw together, then he really has got the potential to be a top guy in the division.
absolutely,
It's just
and that's what I mean. I just don't think that with all this, because the thing is, he's developed this skill set over his entire life and his entire career, and I don't think that you become that good of a fighter with bad fight IQ. So
no.
I do think that there's good fight IQ in there. I just think that he maybe manages his gas tank a little bit poorly. So it's sort of a failure on that sort of management rather than a failure on fight IQ. So I don't believe that it happens for a third time. I think that he does fix it. But I think he has to fix it for this fight, because I don't see him putting Perez out. We saw the shots that Eryk Anders landed on Markus Perez, and Sanchez doesn't have that sort of power. So yeah, I think, like I say, I think Sanchez will fix his gas tank. I think it does go the 3 rounds, and I think he does take a close decision win. And in the next fight of the night, we've got Yuri Alcantara against Cory Sandhagen. Again, another great fight. So who have you got in this one, John?
This one I'm really looking forward to this fight. I'm really looking forward to seeing Cory Sandhagen in action again. His UFC debut, he looked superb. I really liked his fight style. I really liked his striking. His striking looked crisp. His movement was fantastic. He had countless amounts of body shots he landed on Austin Arnett, and then eventually he landed a few too many, which caused him to keel over in the second round. Again, like you mentioned earlier, he trains at Elevation Fight Team, and I think they mentioned it in his UFC debut that he spars with like Neil Magny, Drew Dober, who mentioned, and he has been known to spar quite regularly with Curtis Blades, which is absolute madness. Just a guy of his size coming up against a guy of Curtis Blades' size. And then on the other hand, you've got Alcantara, who's veteran, 38 years old. I mean, he's fought nearly 50 professional fights. He's beaten some top guys. He's pretty well rounded. His striking's very good. BJJ black belt. Last fight was that very nice knockout of Joe Soto, but before that he lost to both Perez and Bryan Kelleher. I think Sandhagen's going to win this. I think he's going to be too elusive. I think the younger guy coming in there, I really like his striking. I think he's going to rip to the body again. I like that relaxed style of Sandhagen. I think he's going to outstrike him, and I think Sandhagen's going to advance to 2-0 in his UFC career.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that you've got to give credit to the bookies here as well, because, well, maybe not so much actually, because they actually opened. I completely take that back. They opened Sandhagen at plus money as an underdog. Very these were really early lines, the ones that have got the $100 limits on.
Yeah.
But man, that steamed from minus. I think it was minus 145 or something like that. That steamed from that to like minus 200 within seconds.
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to see the same thing in Cory Sandhagen. So I agree with the public, and I agree with the way the line went. Man, I love Cory Sandhagen. He came in against Austin Arnott on short notice, like you've already said. His striking is just so fluid. So it flows really well. He's got the type of striking that his hands are down by his side.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because he's got decent head movement. He does take a few shots. He needs to fix that, but he's young. This is his second fight in the UFC. It was his first fight on the big stage, on his debut in his last fight. So he's got time to work on these things.
Definitely.
But at the weight division that he's at, it's not that much of a worry, because although anybody can knock you out at the lower weights, it's, the percentage of that happening is slightly less. But yeah, like I say, fluid striking, moves forward, rips to the body, rips to the head, throws kicks, throws unorthodox stuff. He'll keep walking forward. No matter how many times you hit him, he will keep walking forward.
Definitely. The angles that he was cutting as well against Arnett in his striking were just fantastic.
Yeah,
for their UFC debut, I was thinking this is like top class movement, top class angles that he's
for
cutting.
sure. And the adjective you used to describe him as elusive, and that's exactly what he is. He's going to be a hard guy for Alcantara to get a training partner in to replicate and to mirror, to spar. But I will say this: you can't be that relaxed against Alcantara. I know his style is relaxed and he'll go in calm and things like that, but he's got to keep his wits about him, because Alcantara's no joke. 46 fight vet. He's got 15 knockouts. He's got 14 submissions. If he has to go to the decision, he's got 7 decision wins as well, albeit opposed to 6 decision losses. But still, he's got more decision wins than losses. You can't sleep on Alcantara's striking. I think if it goes to the mat, I think that Sandhagen could potentially be in trouble if he's on his back. We saw what Alcantara did to Luke Sanders after getting absolutely demolished for like a round and a half. He just pulled out a knee bar from nowhere and caused Sanders to instant tap, which again you don't really see too much of. People sort of take the pain for a little bit. Got Sanders perfectly in a knee bar, and knee bars are difficult submissions to pull off. So Cory Sandhagen has definitely got to be careful, but ultimately I think that we may start to see the decline of Alcantara. He's 39 years old, 46 fight vet. So not only is he old in the fight game, but he's also old in age as well. At some point, this is going to start catching up, and I think that this is the perfect fight for Sandhagen to fight Alcantara, and I think this will be the fight where we do start to see that slow decline of Alcantara. I think Cory Sandhagen is going to finish him. I think he's going to finish him with body shots at some point in the fight. I think exactly the same as Austin Arnett. He's going to mix the body shots to the head shots. When Alcantara's thinking about the body, he's going to crack him in the head. When he's thinking about defending his chin, he's going to crack him in the body. And ultimately, I think it's going to be his body that gives way rather than his chin. So I've got Cory Sandhagen to win by TKO at some point in the fight. And in the next fight of the night, we've got James Krause against Warlley Alves. So what have you got in this one?
This one, I really like Warlley Alves. Krause is he's another guy who seems to have been around for ages. He's like 32 years old, and he's had like 30 something, about 32, 33 fights, I think. His bread and butter really is on the ground. He likes the submission game. We saw that when he was competing in the Ultimate Fighter, the Redemption season was it called? I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he dominated on the ground. He's a long fighter. I mean, he'll use those jabs. He's pretty well rounded, but I think his bread and butter is on the ground. Trying to Zach Cummings, who's doing well as well out of Glory MMA. But yeah, I think I like Warlley Alves. He's aggressive. He's powerful. He's got them big body kicks. He's got pretty good takedown defense. Yeah, and I do like him. I mean, he's got a lot of submission victories on his record as well. I mean, he subbed much to many fans' delight, I'm sure. He got that guillotine of Colby Covington. But yeah, I just think Alves is going to be too strong for him. I think he's going to be able to defend those takedowns. He's going to land those brutal body kicks that he's got, and he's going to be aggressive. He's going to pressure him. I think Alves will come out with the win.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like James Krause, especially from a betting perspective in general. And the reason being is I love when you betting. It's great to have a knockout artist in there. It's great to have a submission artist that you're betting on. But the guys that are really good point fighters and can sneak the takedowns momentarily throughout the fight, really good guys to bet on. And first and foremost, I just want to say this line is ridiculous because James Krause is around plus 350. The comeback on Warlley Alves being minus 440. So that's totally off. And I mean totally off. But James Krause wins fights via sort of two attributes. So the first one, strength and power advantage. The second one, takedowns. Now, the reason these won't work against Warlley Alves in this fight is he's moving up a division to fight Warlley Alves. So that weight and strength that he had at lightweight isn't going to be there it's not going to be there anymore. Maybe against some welterweights, but it's not going to be against Warlley Alves is a thick, tough dude. So his strength advantage isn't going to be there. And also the takedowns. We saw in Warlley Alves' last fight against Sultan Aliyev, a fight where I actually picked Sultan Aliyev to win as well. But what you saw, and Sultan Aliyev is a very strong Dagestani-born Russian. And everybody knows my thoughts on those Dagestani-born Russians. But what I noticed during that fight, and I was even saying to my brother that was sat next to me at the time, is Sultan Aliyev was trying to get the trip takedowns. He seemed so concerned and so scared with putting his neck anywhere near Warlley Alves, because Warlley Alves wraps up a guillotine almost every single time someone tries to take him down, and that's ultimately how he submitted Colby Covington. It wasn't the first guillotine he tried to submit Colby with. I think he tried 2 or 3 times and then eventually got it locked up and got the tap. So Krause I think Krause will have the same worries in this fight as what Sultan Aliyev had. He'll just be so scared to try and duck down, level change to take Warlley Alves down in case he gets guillotined, which he did get guillotined actually by JT Money actually.
Yeah, Jesse Taylor. Yeah.
Admittedly, that wasn't from a takedown. JT Money submitted him by guillotine from Mount, but and I think that Krause again might try for takedowns, but again he's going to go for the same trip takedowns as Sultan Aliyev tried to land on Warlley Alves, and that's great if those are the sort of takedowns that you tend to land. But Krause either tends to try and use his power to throw fighters to the mat, which, like I've already said, he's not going to have, or he'll duck in for a single or a double, which I just don't think he'll do because I think he'll be worried. Then you look at the fight potentially staying on the feet. I think Krause is an okay striker, but Warlley Alves is going to pressure, he's going to throw bombs at him. And I just want to credit Warlley Alves actually because sort of a couple of years ago I really went in on his style in regards to him throwing everything he has in round one, gassing out, and then letting
Yeah.
letting fighters take over. But he really seems to have fixed that. He seems to be a lot smarter in there.
Definitely in his last fight against the league, like you said, he was much more patient. I mean,
And he
I was
flurried in the
surprised at
right moments as well.
yeah, I was surprised at how good he was in the clinch as well. I mean, he held a leave against the fence for vast majorities. He
And
smashed at that
Ali's a big
eye.
motherfucking monster as well.
He
He's not
certainly is,
small.
man. He certainly is. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. He's definitely, you can tell he's adapted his game over the last few years, and he was much more controlled. Like I said, didn't go all out in the first round and blow his gas tank. And yeah, very
Absolutely.
impressive.
To wrap this up from my side, I just think it's a stylistic nightmare for James Krause. So although I think the line is off for James Krause for sure, I definitely still think it should be closer. It is a fight that I think Warlley Alves will win, and I think he's going to knock him out. I think he's going to catch him
Yeah.
maybe mid fight when Krause has realised that he can't take him down and he is getting flurried on and bombed on. I think at that point Krause might mentally break down inside the cage, and I think we see Warlley Alves catch him and put him away. So my prediction is Warlley Alves by knockout. And then the next fight of the night, again another real mismatch for me. We've got Eryk Anders against Tim Williams. So who have you got in this one, John?
No messing around with this one. Eryk Anders. I just think he's a better fighter. I mean, Williams. His last fight, he got hammered with that shot in the first round against Oscar Piotr. And yeah, I just think Anders, his kickboxing's good. He's got strong, powerful hands. His last fight was his first loss against Machida. Machida's just had too much quality for him. But it was a very close fight, mind you. So yeah, I just think overall, I just think it's a mismatch. I think Anders is the better striker. I think he'll light him up on. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another first round TKO knockout finish, and Anders gets the win.
Yeah, I agree. And the one credit you have got to give to Tim Williams is his 3 losses inside the cage is Oscar Piotr. I know he looked a bit strange in his last fight. Had a great first round against Gerald Meerschaert, then ultimately completely gassed himself out. We didn't see that in his fight with Johnny Bravo. But still not a bad loss at all. And he had a little bit of success against Piotr before he got knocked out as well, which is definitely something to mention. And then the last 2 losses before that were both against Anthony Smith, albeit Anthony Smith not being as great back then as he is right now, but still not a bad loss on all accounts. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's a total mismatch. I think Tim Williams has, his biggest strength is potentially his wrestling. I'm not sure he'll be able to take Eryk Anders down, and if he does, it'll be momentary, and I think Anders will probably get back up. But again, that's if he does get him down. I think Anders is going to bomb on him from start until it finishes, which again will probably be less than 5 minutes.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, in his last fight, he was holding his chin really high as well. And I mean, if one of them power shots from Anders lands on that chin, I think it's game over early on.
I think he's going to back him up against the cage, and I think Tim Williams is going to shell up and ultimately get knocked out. So that's all I've really got to say on the matter. I just think it's a total mismatch. I don't get why they've made this fight, and I'd be very surprised if Tim Williams got his hand raised at the end of the night. So I've got Eryk Anders to win by knockout. And in the next fight, this is one that, man, I've gone backwards and forwards on. Love both guys. We've got John Moraga against Deiveson Figueiredo. So who have you got, John?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you on this one. Gone back and forth. I'm in and are in. We've got the unbeaten Figueiredo against the veteran Moraga.
Let's be honest, though, he shouldn't be unbeaten. Let's just get that straight out there right now.
That is true, yeah. That is true. But yeah, unbeaten. He looked good in his last fight. He was dominant on the ground against Joseph Morales. Dominated strong on top, just pretty much held him down for the entire. He landed strong ground and pound. Then obviously, before that was the Jared Brooks fight, the split decision. Moraga, on the other hand, he seemed to have had a complete change around in fortune. Before that Mokhtarian fight, I think if he'd have lost that, he would have. I think he's mentioned in an interview that he would have retired if he'd have lost that. That would have been 4 losses in a row, and he would have been done with the sport. But he's since that Pettis loss, he's beat Mokhtarian, beat that fantastic knockout of Bibulatov, that big left hook, and then one of his best wins for years against Wilson Hayes in his last fight. Yeah, I really like Moraga. I always have done. I don't know why. I don't know what stood out with him to me, but yeah, I do really like him. He's got some good submission skills. I mean, 8 of his 18 wins come by submission. He's tough. He doesn't get finished easily. Yeah, I like he tried to Benson Henderson, and you noticed in his last few fights he's been hitting them low calf kicks as well, which Benson Henderson was one of the originators of. I really like that low kick. He's doing that especially against Bibulatov. He landed 2 or 3 of them in quick succession before the knockout, and I like Moraga to win this one. He's riding high confidence. He's got a strong wrestling background as well. He's got a really strong wrestling background, which I haven't mentioned. So I think it'll be a battle on the feet, personally, and I think Moraga's going to win it.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look back at Moraga's last 5 losses, you've got Sergio Pettis, legit, Mateus Nicolau, going to be legit. You know, he's still a good fighter, and that was a split decision. Joe Benavidez at the time was absolutely legit.
Yeah.
John Dodson, legit. Mighty Mouse, legit. So he tends to only get beaten by the top of the division. And like you've just said as well, he's got a D1 background. Again, it's almost criminal that we don't see more of it, because that's also at Arizona State University as well, which is a fantastic university for wrestling. I'm pretty sure it's one of the best in the country. So, you know, his wrestling background's really solid. But yeah, we don't see it. Ultimately, I think he gets taken down more than he should. His wrestling background doesn't seem to keep him vertical. You know, we saw Wilson Hayes take him down, like, I think it was 7 or 8 times. So,
yeah.
Admittedly, he did get back up most of them until he gassed. And this is my worry for John Moraga in this fight, because the one thing that is definitely going to happen is Moraga's going to be moving backwards.
Yep.
Davison's going to be moving forwards.
Yep.
Deiveson always pressurizes. Moraga is always on the back foot against fighters that are pressure fighters. So that's definitely going to happen. I think Deiveson cuts off angles really well. I think he times his takedowns really well. He will be shooting for takedowns. I can almost guarantee that. He will also score takedowns as well. I can almost guarantee that. And I think that if he scores enough takedowns over a couple of rounds, because I do think this fight is going to go the distance, by the way. I don't see a finish unless Moraga catches him with a counter, which is possible. But ultimately, I do see it going to a decision. And if this gets into the 3rd round and Deiveson has scored quite a few takedowns, I do think that Deiveson is going to gas Moraga out, and then I think he'll have a more comfortable 3rd round. So ultimately, from Davison's point of view, get to the 3rd round, win at least one of the 2 rounds, because we're not in Brazil now. He's not going to get free hand-me-downs from the judges. So win one of the first 2 rounds, get into the 3rd round, hope Moraga's gassed and win that, then he'll take 2 rounds. In my opinion, can he take one of the first 2 rounds? Absolutely, he can. I think it will. I think it actually will be 1-1 going into that 3rd round. Obviously, if there's no finish, and who's got the better gas tank at that time?
Yeah.
It almost depends if Deiveson scores these takedowns. If he doesn't score the takedowns, I think Moraga will have the better gas tank. I think Deiveson will fade. Man, it's a tough one for me to pick. Ultimately, I'm going with Moraga. I just think the vet experience. I think that Davison's going to have to take that first L at some point. It definitely should have been against Jared Brooks, man. Like, I rewatched that, and it could have even been a 30-27 for Brooks. Well, I do know why it was scored, because it scored the way it was, and it was just it was definitely a hometown decision. There's no 2 ways about it, because he wouldn't have had that decision anywhere else in the world. It was completely obvious. I don't like to use the word robbery so much, but that was a robbery.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately my pick's going to be John Moraga. I think he does win by decision. I think he does stay vertical. I think he will get taken down a couple of times in round one, but I think he'll sort of adjust whilst he's in there in the cage, adjust to defend the takedowns. And stuff them in round two, and at that point I think Deiveson might start realising that he's got to strike, and then that's where I think that Moraga's got the advantage. So I am going Moraga
Yeah.
to win the fight
I did
by
notice.
decision.
I did notice in his last fight as well, Deiveson, when he went into the second round, he starts just throwing single strikes. He doesn't throw those combinations. He doesn't throw much behind the one power shot. I mean, he's just swinging uppercuts and right strong right hands and things. And yeah, just as you say, I think he might get some early takedowns in the first round, but Moraga keeps getting back up and then lighting him up on the feet when they're standing. I think when it gets that second round, I think if he can't get it to the mat, he'll start throwing just single strikes again, and I think that's where Moraga will come through.
For sure, and I think on the flip side to that, the danger is with what we saw in the Wilson Hayes fight is Hayes was relentless. Yes, Moraga kept standing up, but he kept pursuing the takedown. He kept pursuing the ground game, and I think if Deiveson almost follows that same game plan, that even if he does tire a little bit, just keep shooting these takedowns, I think that Moraga will tire again. We saw that against Hayes. He was visibly tired in round three, and I
Yeah,
think that if Deiveson can get Moraga to that stage of his gas tank, the same as what Wilson Hayes did, I think that he can take that third round, and then it'll come to, did Deiveson win one of the first two rounds, and I think he will. So, there's a flip side to both of this. It's almost a striker versus grappler battle again, because if Moraga stays vertical, he wins the fight. There's no question about that. I think if
yeah,
Deiveson has a lot of top time, a lot of top time and scoring a lot of takedowns, I think that he's got a good chance of winning the fight. It's just ultimately, I think that Moraga's path to victory and his vet experience is just that much greater than Deiveson's path to victory and his experience. I just think Moraga will pull through on this one. So it's going to be an interesting fight, though. I'm really looking forward to it. And moving into the next one, we've got Jake Ellenberger against Bryan Barberena. It's going to be a quick breakdown from me. So who have you got, John?
yeah, exactly the same as me. Bryan Barberena, first round finish. I, Ellenberger, I can't believe that he's still going, to be honest. I mean, he's lost, 8 of his last 10 fights. Surprised he's still with the promotion with one win in his last 6 as well. And he's taken some brutal knockouts as well in that time. I just think he's one of those fighters who's, you mentioned it with Takanori Gomi earlier, I think his chin's just gone. Back in the day, he was very dangerous, really strong wrestler and very powerful hands. But he's just. I think it's going to be another first round knockout, first round TKO, and I think that's going to be it then, hanging up the gloves. Barberena's pretty durable. He's got strong hands. I mean, he had Leon Edwards all over the place at the end of the second round, I think it was. Nearly finished that fight. He's got pretty strong hands, got good power in his hands, and as soon as he lands one clean on the chin, it's game over, I think.
Now, I'll always try and battle both sides. I tried with Tim Williams against Eryk Anders, and I'll try again here, because you do look at his last 3 knockout losses. So you've got Jorge Masvidal, hits like a truck, will knock most
Yeah,
fighters out. Mike Perry, don't even need
crazy
to
Mike
mention
Perez.
anything from that. And even Ben Saunders, Ben Saunders has got knockout power.
In the clinch especially, which is obviously
Exactly, and I think the reason why that fight looks so bad is because, that loss looks so bad is because Ben Saunders, it was also, we thought, on a decline at the time as well,
yeah,
which he could potentially still be. Who knows? It doesn't really show too much at this stage, in my opinion, knocking out Jake Ellenberger. But like I say, his last 3 losses have all been knockouts, but they've all been to guys that will knock a lot of people out as well. So, how much stock do you put in that? I'm not sure. Ultimately, Bryan Barberena is tough as shit. He throws like a brick. He's got pressure. He's got cardio. He's got the strength conditioning and takedown defense to keep this fight vertical. And again,
No.
I just think it's not only a bad stage in his career to fight at this level. I think he should be retired, like you've said. And then you add towards the fact that he's fighting a fighter that is everything that he doesn't want to be in there against. Like I say, it's really tough to have an argument for Jake Ellenberger. So I've got Bryan Barberena to knock him out in round 1 as well. And then in the next fight, we've got Courtney Casey against Angela Hill. Who have you got in this one?
Back over to the females, the strawweight division. With this one, I'm going for Angela Hill, the former Invicta champion. I think she's got good kickboxing, great kickboxer. Uses a lot of kicks. She's in and out. She's very quick. She's hard to hit, and I just think she'll be better on the feet. I think she'll be able to get in and out quickly. I think she'll just land volume on Courtney Casey, similar to the way that Hill did against Mariana Moraes. And I think if Casey does take the loss here, I think it could be the end of the road for her in the UFC as well. Like you mentioned earlier, I don't like to see people losing their job, but that'll be three losses on the bounce and 4 out of the last 5 defeats. And yeah, I just can't see her. She's tough. She's a real tough Hawaiian, as they all are there. But I just can't see her outstriking Hill. Hill's very elusive. I can't see her taking it down and keeping her there. And I just think Hill's going to have too much for her. I think she's just going to cruise away to a unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's I actually think it's going to be a lot closer than what you potentially think. The reason being is there's a huge size advantage here for Courtney Casey. Now, Angela Hill's got to do 2 things in here. Normally, she's just got to she's got great movement. She's got a nice in-out game, good speed as well. Does tend to slow down in a lot of the third round, so that is also something to take into consideration as well. But she's got to do 2 things here. She's got to, before she can even start to strike and land, she's got to close distance. Now, every time she comes in, Casey's going to have a straight jab for her. She's going to stick and try and move herself. She's also going to have a cross. She's going to try and keep Angela Hill on the outside. Now, that might be easier said than done, especially in round 1. And I think that Angela Hill will win round 1, and she will have success doing this. But then, like I say, she does tend to not gas. That's completely the wrong word. She just tends to slow down a little bit in round 3 in fights where she's having a lot of success in her striking, and this size disadvantage isn't there for her. So what makes me curious here is what she looks like in round 1 if she's had to work hard. What she looks like in round 2 if she's had to work particularly harder than what she normally has to in round 1, and it does leave me a bit suspicious of if she's gonna still look great round 2 and then going into round 3, it could get very hairy. It's probably going to go to a decision this fight, so it could end up with another dodgy split decision. Now, ultimately, the reason I am going to pick Angela Hill is I do think she can win round 1. I think round 2 will be interesting, but I bet Courtney Casey against Michelle Waterson. I still stand by that. I thought she won that fight with activity on bottom. A similar reason to why I thought Ricardo Ramos beat Kang on the last card. That activity on bottom won that fight for Ramos, and I just think the same theory applies to Courtney Casey in that fight. But Courtney Casey just tend to find ways to lose fights, and that's a problem for me. And I find it very hard to pick a fighter to win a fight that does seem to have all the tools to win the fight. She matched up perfectly against Michelle Waterson. She was plus money. She was an underdog at the start. She was an underdog when I grabbed her. She had all the tools, the stylistic matchup to beat Michelle Waterson. She still found a way to lose that fight. So I find it really hard to pick her. So ultimately, I'm going to pick Angela Hill. I do think it is going to be a close decision, unless Hill does have a lot of success and she can close the distance really easily. I just think, again, with Courtney Casey's style, I don't think that she allows her to close the distance easily. But who knows? She might just fucking put her hands down and just let Angela Hill just unload on her. Who knows? You don't know, but ultimately I am going to pick Angela Hill to win. But like I say, I think it is going to be a close decision, potentially a split as well. So move on to our co-main event of the evening. This is again, they're all interesting fights, man. I say the same thing for every fight. I love MMA, I love UFC. I fucking love every fight. So we've got Michael Johnson versus Andre Fili. Who have you got?
Yeah, this is another tough one because if you look at it just on the basis of their records, you'd say Andre Fili straight away. I mean, he's won 3 of his last 4. He looked good against Bermudez. He's tough. He's good on the feet. I mean, he trains with Team Alpha Male, so they're always going to have solid wrestling foundation as well. And then you look at Michael Johnson, and he's lost 5 of his last 6. But when you look at those losses, I mean, they're like you were just saying with Jake Ellenberger. This is similar. I mean, he's lost to some real top quality guys: Nate Diaz, Khabib, Justin Gaethje, Elkins. When he welcomed into the featherweight division, Elkins is a beast there. He can take you down and hold you down and maul you if you're not careful. So it's not like he's losing to lower level competition or he's getting absolutely obliterated. That fight with Gaethje, that was an absolute war. That could have gone either way. He rocked Gaethje a few times. He looks like he's one of the only people to have ever slightly momentarily touched Nurmagomedov that affected him in any way, shape or form. I know people keep going on about that. Michael Johnson rocked Nurmagomedov. What's Conor going to do to him? So this one I found really tough because you look at it from the outside and you think, it's going to go Andre Fili's way. But Johnson, he's a crisp boxer. He's got good wrestling. I've always liked him from back on the Ultimate Fighter. I think he was on season 11 or 12. I think it was.
It was a long time ago, man. I can remember watching that before I even had a baby.
Yeah, he was GSP and Koscheck, wasn't he? It's one of my favourite series actually. This one, and I remember thinking, he's 100% going to win the show, and then he lost to Brookins in the final, didn't he, Jonathan Brookins? But
what a long lost name that guy is.
I know, yeah. I looked him up actually a few years ago, to see what he was doing now. I'm sure he's moved to India or something, and he runs a yoga retreat or something.
That doesn't surprise me at all. That
something crazy like that.
His personality doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. But so going back to his fight, I found it really, really tough to pick a win on this one. And I mean, when you look at Michael Johnson's that one win out of the 6 fights, it's against Dustin Poirier, who's now one fight away from he's fighting Nate Diaz, who's now one of the biggest names after the McGregor fights. He's one of the biggest names in the division. If he wins that, he's no doubt, I'm sure, going to get a shot at the title. And he beat him. He finished him in the first round. I think Michael Johnson's going to get back in the win column in this one. When you look at Fili's wins, he's like I say, he's won 3 of his last 4. They've come against Dennis Bermudez, who was on that horrible run. I think he's lost 4 or 5 in a row. Fight before that was against Artem Lobov. We all know what his record's like. Although he brings it every fight, he hasn't got the greatest.
You're not going to talk no disrespect to the GOAT, are you?
The GOAT. No, I couldn't disrespect the GOAT, but but yeah, but there's for me personally, there's tougher levels of competition in the division.
For sure.
And then you've got Hakran Diaz. Again, they're going to decision.
Man, that was a good win though. That he put on a really good performance in that fight. I've watched it a few times over the last few months, and it was a good fight for sure.
He did look very good in that fight, and then his losses come against Yair Rodriguez, Calvin Kattar. I know you're a big fan of.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So I mean, this is definitely a step up in competition for him. I think Johnson's going to get back in the win column. I know he'll know that he needs to win this one. He's got good boxing. He's got crisp boxing. He's got good movement. He's got good wrestling. And I think it's ultimately going to be fought on the feet. And I think Johnson's going to outscore him. I think it'll go the distance because Fili's a tough guy. But I think Johnson's going to get back in the win column with this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to go the distance as well. Now the thing is with Andre Fili is I really like the guy and I'm really high on him. A lot of people I see a lot of people not liking him, and that's fine.
Yeah,
You know, everybody loves and hates different fighters. Um, but I really like Andre Fili. But the one style that he struggles against is a pressure boxer. Now we saw that against Calvin Kattar when Calvin Kattar came in on his debut. He just didn't have an answer for it. He was Kate was constantly in his face. Like I say, great jab, great cross, just a really solid boxing foundation. And then you look at Dennis Bermudez as well in his last fight, a fight that I cashed on Fili, by the way. I cashed on him as an underdog as well, but I actually think that Fili lost that fight. I know a few people disagree with me,
yeah,
but listen, this is a guy that's saying that the bet that he's won actually should have lost. So, you know, that's just me being honest and unbiased. I think Dennis Bermudez won that fight, and it was rough that he lost it. Um, but again, the same reasons. Bermudez was pressuring. He was in his face. He was boxing. I know he scored a couple of takedowns, but primarily he was boxing Fili up. And Fili does have trouble. He does tend to angle out quite nicely.
yeah,
And he does hold his own for sure. But it's the one style that I think he struggles against. Any other style, I think he can flourish on. Um, and that's exactly what Michael Johnson is. He's a crisp, quick boxer. And
yeah.
against Elkins, his cardio did seem okay as well. I actually thought he was going to be absolutely done after maybe round one. I thought looking at him, it was going to be a really tough cut. Fair play to Michael Johnson, he made weight. He got in there, did what he was contracted to do, got in the cage, and his cardio held up as well. So you know you've got to assume that the same will potentially happen in this fight, but. I am going to pick Andre Fili to win this fight, and there's a few reasons why. I think that he's got a knack for making fights close. He's got a knack for making fights scrappy. He's always in the fight. He always lands volume, even when he's getting unloaded on against the cage. He will fire something back. He won't allow his
Yeah,
fighters to look great in front of the judges. Ultimately, I think that's why the fight got scored to him against Bermudez as well. Um, and also his wrestling, man. He took Bermudez down a fair few times, and
he did. Yeah,
he didn't
Bermudez, good
keep him
wrestler.
down. But Bermudez is a D1 wrestler, and I said this before the Bermudez fight. This is one of the reasons why I bet Fili in that fight. Danny Castillo will be in his corner against wrestlers at all times. Danny Castillo is a very, very good MMA wrestler. He's got a
Yeah,
solid wrestling background himself, and he seems to be able uh, to rub off on every single one of his fighters that he trains in regards to his wrestling. And you can see that with Fili. Fili took Diaz down a few times. He took Bermudez down a few times. Fighters that primarily that's the other way around. They're normally the fighters that are taking their opponents down. So I feel that Andre Fili's wrestling is getting better. Now, two more things to mention in regards to Johnson. One, Johnson's fought Danny Castillo before. Admittedly, he knocked him out. I get
yeah,
that, but that's experience and knowledge that Danny Castillo's got of Michael Johnson's game that he can translate directly to Andre Fili. Second of all, what did I say to you, John, on the last podcast that we did with Dennis Bermudez and Rick Glenn? What did Dennis Bermudez do when he fought Rick Glenn? He fought the third Team Alpha male fighter in a row.
yeah.
And he lost the three. He lost all three. Admittedly, I don't think he should have lost against Fili. I don't think he should have lost against Glenn. So he's definitely that was definitely Bermudez drawing a short straw twice. But it's not a smart move fighting Team Alpha male fighters one after another. The gym's smart. The trainers are smart.
Yeah,
They're planning for the same guy like time and time again. And although this isn't three for Michael Johnson, this is the second in a row. He's just
yeah,
fought Darren Elkins, lost, and now he's fighting Andre Fili. They're going to be able to apply a similar game plan.
yeah.
And
They'll know the game plan, won't
I
they?
just
For
feel
sure.
that these little elements are gonna cause Fili to win. I do think it's going to be a close decision. I do think it's one that people might think is wrong and should have gone the opposite way. But ultimately, I'm picking Andre Fili to win by decision in a very close fight, which moves us straight into our main event of the evening. And what a fight we've got here! We've got
Oh, I
Justin
can't wait for
Gaethje
this one.
against James Vick. So come on, who have you got?
This one again this is a fantastic fight. I can't wait for this one. James Vick has been calling for a top name for as long as I can possibly remember, and now he's getting he's definitely working his way up there. And if he does get past Gaethje, then that really opens him up to the to the top of the division guys. I've been back and forward on this one as well, and I think it all depends on how Gaethje comes out, because I know we've all seen his wild style. We saw it against Michael Johnson. He was victorious in that one. We saw it against Eddie Alvarez. He lost that one. We saw him against Dustin Poirier. He lost that one. He's got fantastic wrestling. And if he plays the game a bit smarter, then some of these results may go his way. He's got power in his hands. He's got that brutal leg kick. Like I say, he's got fantastic wrestling, but you never see it because he just loves brawling so much. Whether that changes now he's on a 2-fight losing streak, I don't know. Whether he will change his style up a bit, which may serve to help him, I don't know. But I would like to see him change it up. As much as I love his wild brawling styles, I mean, I don't think he's going to have much more longevity in his career if he keeps going into wars the way he has been. James Vick, on the other hand, he's a huge lightweight. He's about 6'3", 6'4". He's massive. He's got a huge reach. He's very well rounded as well. He's got knockout power in his hands, as we saw against Joe Duffy, saw against Polo Reyes. He's got good submissions with those long limbs of his. Defeated Abel Trujillo, Vardas choke. Jake Matthews got him in a guillotine. Ramsey Newsome got him in a guillotine. This one's really tough for me. For Gaethje to win, he's going to have to get inside, because Vick's going to keep him on the end of that jab. He's going to keep him away with kicks. He's got long legs. He likes to throw those kicks out, especially that front kick to that teep, and the high front kick to try and maintain distance, try and keep him at bay. And I think if Vick can manage that, I don't think it'll be the same kind of war that we've seen the last few Gaethje fights, because Poirier likes to bite down on that mouthpiece, as does Eddie Alvarez. I think James Vick's a bit smarter than that. I think he'll try and game plan a little bit more. I think he'll try and maintain distance. I think he'll try and, like I say, keep him at the end of that front kick, the end of the jab. But overall on this one, I see Gaethje getting the win. I see him getting back in the win column. I think he will be able to work his way inside. He may have to take one or two punches to work his way in, but we've seen before he doesn't mind that. And then if you can push him up against the cage, get Vick's back to the cage, and he's going to unleash those flurries that he likes. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Gaethje finish James Vick in this one. I don't think he'll be in the early rounds. I think he'll be the third or fourth round. But I think Gaethje's going to get back in the win column. Saying that, he could easily, like I say, he could easily go the other way, and Vick keep him on the end of that jab and just work him down eventually. But yeah, I think Justin Gaethje is going to get back in the win column in this one.
Yeah, I'm going the opposite way in this. I agree with a lot of the points you've made, and I do think that it's going to be a tough fight for Vick. But I just think stylistically, this is actually a good fight for Vick to continue his win streak and get in on the win column again. I think that well, first and foremost, everybody knows what you have to watch out for with Gaethje. You know, it's no secret he's going to kick the shit out your legs. That's first and foremost. That's what he's going to do. He'll break most fighters down. Like you saw him, he broke Eddie Alvarez. He broke Dustin Poirier. But man, they're fucking warriors. Like they still kept fighting. They still kept moving forward. Well, hobbling forward, and they still both knocked him out. That to me, that's testament to Dustin Poirier and to Eddie Alvarez. Because Gaethje did everything that he possibly could to finish those two, and like I say, they're just warriors. There's nothing else to say in respect to that. But James Vick, yeah, again, he's got to watch out for these leg kicks. He's got to check. He's got to keep out the way of him, because still with
Yeah.
these leg kicks, there's only so many you can check before you're going to buckle. Um, I do think he's tough though, James Vick. I don't think he will buckle to these leg kicks, but it's a few little things that I like with James Vick. For a start, the one thing Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier do is walk forward in fights. They like to be the aggressor, and that's ultimately where they were getting caught with these leg kicks. So they were never really out the way of the leg kicks.
No.
Whereas James Vick doesn't mind fighting on the back foot, and I think that will definitely aid him in this fight for sure. Um, like we've already said, he's really long. He fights long. He's got a long jab. Golden Gloves boxer as well, so
Yeah.
his striking's good. He can pop that jab out, try and keep Gaethje on the end of his strikes as best he can. We saw in the Trinaldo fight he was using a lot of these long side kicks as well. That's also a
Yes. Yeah.
tool to try and keep distance against an opponent. Also a tool that he should be investing in this fight as well. Again, it'll just stop Gaethje landing these leg kicks. But then when they're close in and Gaethje has strikes thrown against him, thrown towards him, he tends to either duck straight down to avoid the strike, or he'll take the fight and duck it reactively, which is really strange to me, and I don't know why he does it, because ultimately it just leaves not open. It doesn't leave him open, but it's a pretty good target to hit when somebody goes straight down. Now I think with
Yeah.
Vick, he's got dangerous knees, he's got uppercuts. I think that with the length of his legs, he's actually going to be able to generate a lot of power in a short knee coming up, because the knee will actually come straight through the head rather than just hitting the head, which is always going to be dangerous. And I just think that we all know Gaethje is going to be hittable, and for a top guy like Gaethje is, you should be looking at around maybe 2 to 3 strikes absorbed per minute at this level.
Yeah.
Do you know what Gaethje's strikes absorbed per minute is?
Probably about 7.
It's 10. It's fucking
Yeah.
stupid. Like the guy's a zombie. And like you said, there's only going to be so many more times he can take this punishment before his body does start to shut down on him and give up. He's only
Yeah.
human at the end of
Yeah.
the day. I know I've just joked about the zombie thing, but he is only human, and I think he's taken a lot of damage throughout his career. First and foremost, I think he's then taken a lot of damage in his last 2 fights against 2 hard hitters in Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, who both ended up knocking him out. I
Yeah.
just think this could be the fight where we see Gaethje's chin just really start to look a bit more human. Um, and I think Vic's going to knock him out. I think it could also, I could also see Vick maybe winning a decision. If it goes to the scorecards, I think there is only one decision winner, because
Yeah.
the reason why I can't pick Gaethje in this fight is because he has to finish his opponent because of how much he gets hit. His style never looks great on the judges' scorecards, and
No, I agree. Yeah.
he will lose. He will definitely lose if it goes 5 rounds against Vick. He will definitely lose at least 3 of those rounds.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
agree.
see a decision win for him. So that's for, like I say, that's one reason I can't pick Gaethje in this fight, because the fight that I'm picking, or the fight that I'm betting, has to be able to win a decision if they need to, and Gaethje just doesn't, especially not over 5 rounds as well. So I do find it tough to pick Gaethje in this fight. I think Vick is going to continue his win streak. I think Vick is going to knock him out. I think that we do see the switch on Gaethje's chin. I think it's going to be one of those knees that I mentioned, or an uppercut as
Yeah.
Gaethje's ducking down, that rocks him, and I think from there Vick can swarm him and ultimately put him down and get the referee to come in and save Justin Gaethje. So I've got James Vick to win by knockout, and that's all she wrote, guys. I'll be on
Yeah.
holiday from Thursday, so I'll make sure as much content as possible for UFC Lincoln is on the Newsome MMA website before I go, so everybody will have enough to get their teeth stuck into. So all the other good guys, podcasts, and the breakdowns and the DraftKings stuff, I'll try and get as much of that loaded on for you guys as I can before I go away, so you got something to read and listen to and watch up until fight night. So John, you're up, man. Plug anything you need to.
Yeah, as always, you can find me on Twitter at MMA. Usually on there, trying to share some of the news that's going on in the MMA world. Get some of my opinions out there. doing my articles, doing my writing for. You can catch me on Fight Post. They're on both Facebook and Twitter and MMA UK. I've got some exciting stuff coming up in the next week or so. I'm going to visit Team Renegade this week in Birmingham. Interviewing a guy, Mike Eunice, who's going to be making his pro debut, but also hoping to catch up with some of the guys there, Tom Breeze, Fabian Edwards, Leon Edwards, if they're around, catch up with some of those guys, Aidan Lee as well, ahead of Cage Warriors. So I'm heading there this weekend, Friday, so I'll probably have some content out next week on that. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and yeah, Twitter @MMA and me.
Sweet. And for me, I'm going to be starting to call this section the Newsome MMA 2-minute plug. So first of all, I'd like to talk about Concussion Pro 1, who are partnering Newsome MMA. Concussion Pro 1 is the world's first dedicated concussion supplement supporting brain and health performance. The product is honestly groundbreaking, and there isn't another supplement in the market like it. The unique formula that makes up Concussion Pro 1 has been developed and created by some of the world's most decorated sports scientists to help protect and support the brain and its performance. It's also approved by the UK Mixed Martial Arts Federation as well. Concussion Pro 1 provides some amazing support to the brain. It increases mental performance. It's faster recovery from injury, reduced inflammation post-impact, improved neural protection, and so much more. With professional athletes such as Alexander Rakic, Mark Diakese, and Scott Askham using Concussion Pro 1, you can already see how vital the product is, not only for MMA, but for all combat sports. You can find out more information by clicking on any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, which will be going live in September, or in the meantime, you can go to concussionpro1.com. Secondly, please check out the sponsor of Newsome MMA, which is CBD Life UK. I'm a great case study for CBD myself. In the MMA gambling world, people often talk about sweats and nerves as they're watching the fight that they have to bet on fight. These feelings are honestly absolutely real, and because of this, I do vape CBD myself to help relax me on fight night. And if I'm really honest, I didn't think it would make much of a difference, but it really does, and I would honestly recommend it to anybody, especially you MMA gamblers. You can access the offers from my sponsorship by clicking on any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, which will also be back live in September, and you can also get 15% off your first order by using promo code Newsome MMA. Finally, once again, make sure that you look at the new betting services at Newsome MMA. With the membership options becoming live very soon, there'll also be some nice discounts for those who commit to the longer term. And also don't forget about the betting consultation service that's offered too, which will benefit people who are just starting out in MMA gambling, and also current MMA gamblers that are just struggling a little and would like a little bit of support. You can find all the betting services at newsomemma.co.uk. And that's it from me, guys. Enjoy the fights on Saturday night. Thank you and goodbye.
Cheers.